So, here she is, ladies and gentlemen. So appealing, so dangerous, so lovely to look at. The darling of London, England, Miss Annie Laurie Starr.
Let's not argue. I'll hock my guns and give us enough dough to make another start.
There isn't enough money in those guns for the kind of start I want. But I want things, a lot of things, big things. I don't want to be afraid of life or anything else. I want a guy with spirit and guts. A guy who can laugh at anything, who'll do anything. A guy who can kick over the traces and win the world for me.
Look, I don't want to look in that mirror and see nothing but a stick-up man staring back at me.
You better kiss me goodbye, Bart. Because I won't be here when you get back. Come on, Bart. Let's finish it the way we started it, on the level.
Hello and welcome to the Cinemondo podcast with Kathy, Mark, and Burke, talking about movies, horror, sci-fi, unusual, unknown, forgotten, underappreciated, always interesting. Are we still interesting?
Yes, always.
Always interesting.
Always. We are underappreciated also.
Yes, underappreciated, forgotten.
We
We're
only
just describing ourselves.
We only speak the truth here.
That's pathetic. So,
what, speaking the truth is pathetic?
The fact that we're forgotten and underappreciated and unknown and unusual and
We should just
always
stop.
interesting. Yeah.
Well, what are we going to talk about today, movie-wise?
Well, I think maybe this one's the origin of this episode might be in my tastes in film, because I like black and white old movies that some people haven't, that people kind of reject in a way. They kind
Are you
of
talking about us, me and Mark?
kind of, yeah, you people,
These people who reject.
you less sophisticated types.
In our defense, I would like to say that, yes, it's true that it's not my first choice, but whenever you suggest a film like this and we watch it, I'm always really glad I did. And I'm like, why don't I watch more of these?
Well, and
Then
particularly
I go right back to, it's black and white.
But particularly about this film, it's a black and white film from 1950. But other than take away the cars and maybe some of the wardrobe, it is a very modern picture.
It really is.
The sense that the way these people talk and it's some of those things can feel dated, and you sense how old they are. This could have been made, could have been made yesterday, as far as the way they're acting and what they're doing. It's
Conceptually too, yeah.
Yeah, it's very contemporary in the attitudes of the people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. And before we talk about it, I just want to remind people to check out our YouTube channel if you haven't already. If you're actually watching this instead of just listening to our podcast, because we do both, subscribe. Please subscribe, comment, like. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, we love getting that from you. So subscribe, like, and comment.
And let us know what you think about this cool kind of retro black and white idea. We're trying it. We want to know.
I think people should. I think people are going to like it because it's a movie. I mean, let me first say, I think we haven't mentioned the title of the film we're talking about is called Gun Crazy, which is one of the great titles of film noir. Gun Crazy. And it's considered a film noir, which is a dark crime drama from a certain period of time that has a certain feel to it. There's a lot of daylight in this one, which is unusual. A lot of film noir stuff has the real cool people smoking cigarettes in the darkness with the Venetian blinds. That's how you imagine it. But this one has John Dall in it, and he's, to me, kind of not really a film noir type. He's not a Humphrey Bogart. He's almost like this kind of grinning, almost like a Jim Neighbors kind of guy. You know, he's like
I was
this
gonna say,
likable.
I was gonna say Jimmy Stewart has.
I was gonna say
vibe.
that kind of everyman, like nothing super special, just kind of your average guy.
Yeah, and you like it. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, and which I think makes this movie more powerful because you see him get corrupted. Which, you know, the corruption is a big part of film noir. You know, when people are lured into something against their best interests, you know, it's like, and you as the viewer, you're saying, no, don't go there, don't do it. But this is a classic example of that type of film noir where somebody makes horrible choices with their life. But then again, you as you're watching it, you kind of understand. It's a Bonnie and Clyde kind of a situation.
Yeah, let's do a quick synopsis about what it is. You want to take us down that road, Mark?
Well, briefly, it's about John Dall's character's name is Bart, and you see him as a young boy played by a young Russ Tamblyn, or Rusty
Eat my shorts.
Tamblyn, as he's
Is that what he says?
credited.
Ay caramba.
Something like that.
No.
Oh.
Oh no.
His father's Homer.
Did I watch the right movie?
But he steals a gun, from a hardware store. So he's kind of like a juvie kid, and it's
a great opening scene.
Yeah.
Loved it.
But he kind of strains himself out. He goes in the military. He comes out, and he's got two friends. And one of the things I like about this movie is there's a real relationship between him and his two childhood buddies, who kind of hang out early on when they're kids, and they're trying to shoot mountain lions, which I'm sure Kathy wasn't thrilled
let me just say the opening scene where he's shooting a baby chick.
Yeah, that's the thing that
I was like, okay, one close up of the dead baby chick was enough. Two was like, come on.
Yeah.
So, but fortunately, because I have chickens, and it was just sad to see it.
But that's the defining scene.
He redeemed him. Yes, it was. It was, and I love that he felt bad.
Yeah.
Right.
And that made it better. And then when he had a chance to shoot another animal, and he refused.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I was able. I'm going to give it a little bit of a pass.
Because so you realize, okay, he really has feeling. He doesn't want to do this stuff, but then he goes to this Wild West show, and Peggy Cummins, who's an Irish actress who plays Annie, who is just this kind of classic
Annie Laurie Starr.
Yeah, a gunslinger who's just incredible with does all these tricks with guns and fire, lighting matches and doing kinds of crazy stuff.
She was really funny. You could totally see that in a carnival, like just pew 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 pew.
Yeah,
it's like so funny.
Right.
This beautiful woman, like with guns, and she looked really cool in her little cute cowboy outfit.
Yeah, and she's as we know incredible in this film. I mean, she's really
loved her.
She's just iconic, as the femme fatale.
And that's not like it was having a strong woman. I mean, granted, she was a criminal ultimately, but having a strong woman like that, like she was the strong character. Like he was kind of like the passive character who kind of went along with her. There wasn't a ton of that especially in American films, to see a woman like that being in charge. And that's what I kind of enjoyed about it. It was kind of a nice, because we watched a lot of these film noir, and the women are so like, I'm so in love with you, I'll do anything for you. And you're just like, oh my God, these women. And so it was cool to see a woman who had her own ideas. Yeah, it was actually really cool.
Well, and there's also the sexual tension between the two is so like palpable. She just has him wrapped around, her finger.
Yeah.
And so they meet, and there's a relationship starts, but then they can't make money. They have some issues, and they turn to a life of crime.
Well, they don't work. It's like, how about working? I don't know, just saying. And that actually is one of my favorite lines in the movie. It's like, all these just happened because we didn't want to work.
Yeah,
but there's an interesting twist in the film. I mean, spoilers for a 3,000-year-old film, but there is a funny thing. When I watch this film, it always sort of strikes me as funny that their big heist that they pull off involves getting jobs.
Yes.
They have to get jobs in this place. And it's almost like
Why'd they just keep the job?
You solved your problem.
Right.
So funny.
They both have jobs.
That
Yeah.
was so good.
Working at a meat packing.
Yeah.
Armor meat.
But that's
packing.
not, I mean, she's got some great lines in this film. This movie is just filled with a great script, but there's one part where she's basically given the classic femme fatale thing where she's telling him, look, I want things. I want a lot of things. I want expensive things. And if you can't give them to me, I'm going to go away. It's that kind of
got to speed this up.
Yeah, you're going to lose me. And then she goes and lays down in the bed and it's like, and it's this great scene where he comes over to her and then it's close on her face. And then you don't know what he's doing, but then you realize he's kind of on top of her, and this movie is so.
Doesn't she say something? Let's finish this the way we started, on the level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was written by McKinley Cantor and co-written by Millard Kaufman, who is a pseudonym for Dalton Trumbo. So Dalton Trumbo got this script because the King brothers, who were sort of this, classic low budget Hollywood producers, and they would just produce all this poverty row stuff. They got Dalton Trumbo because he was involved in the whole, scare, the communist scare.
Blacklisted.
So he wrote this under a pseudonym, and he took the script and he made it what it is. He brought in all that sexual tension, some of those lines, and he sort of really just, turned the script on its ear and made it what it is.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a classic script. I mean, it's a simple script though. It's not, there's complexity to the characters, but it's never, it never goes outside of a certain type of a crime drama that you see where the people have these really basic instincts that they're following. There's like a whole, obviously he is in love with her and enamored by her and will do anything she tells him to do. And
a woman knows how to shoot. How can you not want to do anything she says?
She's in love with the adventure of crime. She just, and also she is ruthless. And there's one line in there that I think it's so simple. It's like a simplified line where it's something like, I can't remember exactly the line, but he says something like, why do you have to kill people? Why can't you just let them stay alive? And it's like,
and you do kind of wonder, like they could easily get out of these situations they were in without killing people, but she just sort of like just shooting up the place and people die.
Well, she says something.
Why did you shoot the guy? And she says, because he would have shot me if he had a chance.
Right.
Like, because you just robbed him.
Right. She always had an answer to his, obvious questions.
Yeah.
But what I liked about this too is like a lot of film noir is very set bound, or but this one has a lot of stuff happening, like you said, during the daytime outside. There's a very famous 3-minute or 4-minute scene that is set in a town called, I think it's, was it Milton? It's a Hampton. It's somewhere in the Midwest, but it's literally about 2 blocks down from my house.
Yeah.
Here.
Oh, that's funny.
And so it's really fun to see that and see that the trees now, that are these huge trees in the shot of these small little trees. Anyway, it's a 3-minute uninterrupted shot from the back seat of this car, and it's completely ad lib dialogue by the two actors. And the actual car in real life was like a stretch Cadillac limo. So there was enough room for the camera to be on some sort of like little dolly, and they move it around that way, and enough people to be like 3 people in the back seat. But Joseph H. Lewis was the director. And this is like way ahead of its time. I don't think this is like a Brian De Palma shot.
And when you watch it, it's like there's timing things. Like when they pull up in front of the place, he's like, they're looking around, and you can tell that they're just stealing the location basically. But what they probably had was I figure they had somebody standing in a parking space, and if somebody wanted to park, they would just go, no, you can't park here. Right. And when the car was coming, they had a walkie or something, and they said, okay, we're turning left on whatever, and so that person would move at the last minute. And so that there was a parking space in the right spot. And then the camera moves over so that you can see the front door of the bank. And then a police officer comes walking around the corner. And it's like you were saying, it's like a Brian De Palma kind of thing. And I think that really hadn't been done too much. I mean, Touch of Evil had that incredible opening scene.
And that was 8 years later. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but this is like I think what happened was they had somebody in a car parked in that spot, and as soon as they took a left onto Honolulu Avenue,
Yeah.
which is the main drag here, they said, okay, he pulled out, and then John Dall says, oh, there's a car
There's a
leaving,
parking space. Yeah.
Yeah, so he pulls up, and then the only other people that were involved, everybody else was, just regular townsfolk, was the cop. He's an actor, but he's talking to two people that were not actors. And they had somebody in the bank saying, the bank obviously knew that this was happening.
Yeah.
So this was a real bank. So they said, listen, we're going to come and do this thing. He's going to stand in here for a few minutes and do a couple of shots and leave. So the rest of it is just totally like, and there's this in town here. They talk about how, that was, people didn't know what the hell was going on. They thought it was a real bank robbery.
Wow. Because she knocks the cop down,
Well,
and it's like
I love that scene with her with the cop trying to distract him.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. And of course, she's using all of her womanly wiles to keep him interested.
And then the classic, right about here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bam.
You go down fast.
Every
Gone.
time.
It never works when I do it. Every time they go, what did you just do?
Why did you do that? Why you touch? Why you
What is
touching
that?
That is film shorthand classic 101. Get on with the scene. How do we get out of this? Okay, just a karate chop on
Just
the
hit
neck.
him.
And he falls down.
Everybody will get it. It won't be too bad because the head's just awkward. Just hit him in the neck.
But interestingly, that is a classic scene. That's like one of my favorite scenes in film noir. There's another classic scene in this one where they rob another place, and it's the shot. It's the classic shot. Like if you do a Google image search for Gun Crazy, you'll see them in these costumes, these long coats, and they got the sunglasses, and they're running across the street with the guns, like right out in the middle of Brand Avenue, right? A couple of miles that way. And that's the other thing about this movie. If you live in Los Angeles or visit, and you love film noir, a lot of the locations in this film are still there and still look the same. Mm-hmm. And it's a part of the city that hasn't changed very much. Still kind of has a small town vibe to certain parts of where they did the bank robbery, that single shot thing. But this one shot where they run out into the street and she runs across the street and there's a guy coming out and she's firing across, like right out in the open, right out in the broad daylight. And it's just this nightmare of a scene. Like, you rob a bank and you're running away through the streets and there's people walking and cars driving. And you feel like, you really get the feeling, like you were saying, Mark, that they were just stealing locations. They just set up their cameras and said, okay, you guys just run out, and if there's cars, don't get hit.
And they're running really fast, and it's like you feel like they're really kind of scared because they might get caught by a real policeman or something. I don't know. And then it's beautifully directed. I mean, there's other stuff. The climax is just really interestingly shot.
I love the misty swamp. And it was really well shot. You just hear all the dogs around them and they're just shouting, and it was very creepy, and they can't see anything, and that's when all of a sudden he has sort of this realization, like, what did I do? It's like, why are we doing this? We're looking at it the whole time. I'm like, it's not easier just to work. I mean, the life did not look fun. I mean, did they get enough money to make it all worthwhile? It was like, and this is how it had to end, in a disgusting swamp surrounded by dogs and
shot
sheriffs,
down like Bonnie and Clyde.
Well, she wanted to have a lot of money, and he didn't have the ability to make a lot of money. So it was like that.
So what they had is a lot of money where all they could do is run away and hide the whole time.
Right.
There was no life with all that money.
Well,
it was really fun.
To quote Mr. Bernstein from Citizen Kane, "There's no trick to making a lot of money if all you want is to make a lot of money."
Very good point.
But then the trick is staying alive if you choose a life of crime, and this has this also has the classic film noir trope in it, which I also love, because it's coming, and when it happens, you're like, there it is. He has the talk with her where he's basically saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be on the run all the time. We need to just get out of this life and disappear into an anonymity and go away. And she says, yeah, we should. but to do that we need some money, so we need to
One
do
more
just
job.
one more job.
The classic. I like too where they do this big job and then it's like, we're gonna have to separate. We can't
Yeah.
see each other because they're looking for two people, and they have one car going one way, one car going the other way, and they're like, bye, honey, and they're driving away, and then they both stop, and it's like, ah! They just jump in the car together. They
I
can't
love
help it.
that.
So
love that.
good.
Yeah,
It's like
And
we're
it's-
not gonna do it.
And it's beautifully shot. I love the stuff. It reminded me of Model Shop a little bit, where the camera is behind.
Yeah.
And they're actually driving. Peggy Cummins is really
Yes.
driving.
I
this
love seeing it too.
car.
It's this big car, and you
Yeah,
see him
it's-
turning the steering wheel.
Yeah, and so it's real stuff. I love the scene at the California border with the agricultural borders. I love that stuff. You know, I
Yeah.
think it's just
Mhm.
really cool. Again, I'll go back to his boyhood friends who at the end are, I think one's a cop and another one is some-
journalist, I think, right? He works
Journalist.
at the newspaper.
Yeah, and they go to his sister's house in their hometown, and it's not like this hard-boiled sort of, come out here with your hands up. It's like, they're very caring about their friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they want him to come on, listen, let's just end this. So
Yeah.
it was really, there's some moments there that go, this feels a little bit more legit. It doesn't have all the tropes. It has
Well, I
some
like
Right.
what was the
surprising
line
things in it.
at the very beginning when they see him falling for her, it just at the gun show, the very opening, when he sees her at the carnival, they say something, that's a woman that, what is it? That's a woman that where it never ends well. Or he said something like that. So they knew right away that this
Yeah.
was going to be bad. I don't think they knew how bad it was going to be, but
Yeah.
they knew it was going to be
Well, obviously she's trouble. She works for the circus, or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
bad. She's a sharpshooter at a circus.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
they,
that's not
one
good.
interesting little thing that I've always noticed about this film is they kind of give away the there's something as sort of a giveaway at the beginning, which I thought was interesting psychologically, is that when she comes out shooting and there's a shot where she points the gun right at the camera, and you assume that she's pointing it at John Dall, like she's picked
Yeah.
him, and she fires it. So you realize, okay, the guns are just firing blanks. And plus she's just firing them up and it's not poking holes in the tent,
Mhm.
So, and the way they used to do those tricks back then is they would have an exploding cigarette, they would have the
Right.
person
Mm.
holding the cigarette in their mouth would have a little trigger that would go and blow it up, so that you could just fire blanks at her and the cigarette would
Oh.
blow up.
Right.
And they had these mechanisms in the backdrop that would push a little pin through and pop the balloon as the person fired. So there was, it was a magic trick. It was a scam, of course, because they would sometimes get somebody out of the audience to stand there, and the performer would shoot the balloons around them. And they're not gonna do that for real. So
Right.
that's kind of interesting, because you get the impression that maybe she's not really a sharpshooter, but he is. And she almost, when he comes up there, and maybe they gave him, when the person comes up to participate in the show, they give him a real gun, so that he wouldn't be able to do it, right? But she would, because she'd be using the tricks. And then she realizes, wow, this guy can really shoot, and that's
Is
why
that
she,
for real? Because I got that she really was into guns, and
Well,
she
she was
was a
into
real good
guns, I guess,
sharpshooter. But I mean, I really thought she was really a sharpshooter. Is that not?
But remember when
Did I
she
miss
shot
that?
at the guy outside the bank, she didn't kill him. They said that
Well, I
he
thought
was-
maybe she was doing that intentionally.
Oh,
No?
I don't
Oh.
know, because you never in the real
I guess they never
life
really
context,
confirm.
You never
Hmm.
get a confirmation that she's a great shot. But
I
I don't
like to
know. It was
think
just
that
a
she
thought. It
is.
was just a thought
I like
that
to think
had.
she's really a sharpshooter. And that was kind of her gimmick, like a woman who's good with guns. That was like very novel back then, And it didn't seem like the stuff she was doing was fake. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm a sucker. I'm just like one of the people in the audience. I believed it.
Well, the thing is, if her gun is fake, but then John Dahl's character comes up with a real gun, but there's still, there's still somebody there holding whatever, the cigarettes or something, right? So that I would, unless there was something else.
I mean, why would you give someone from the audience a real gun? My God. That's insane.
I don't know, but it is an interesting thought that, she
Mhm.
probably said this guy can actually shoot, so he can be helpful for
This
me to
is
escape
this
this
is-
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole point of her being in that show is
That's
to
true.
find a sharpshooter, that she can then pull into her life of I want things.
It's,
We all
it's-
want things. We just don't necessarily have to kill people to do it.
Yeah.
And Peggy Cummins is great. I mean, like I said, she's
She's so
Irish.
great.
This was her last
So good.
Hollywood film, I think. After
Really?
She moved back to the UK and made films there.
Oh yeah.
But this was her last Hollywood film. I think she was kind of disgusted with it or whatever.
Why would you be disgusted with Hollywood? It's awesome. Everybody's so nice here.
Yeah,
it's very supportive creatively.
But she made her mark on that film. I mean, it's like
sure did.
She really is something.
Yeah.
And John Dall is really well made. Everything about it is good. The writing, the direction. It's one of those you can watch over and over again and find things in it that are like really interesting.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, stylistically, it's a very stylish film. You can tell it's low budget. Somebody used the term poverty row. I think it actually qualifies as sort of a poverty row crime drama, like a cheap noir. And you get the idea that a lot of the things that we love about this film are because of the low budget, the like the shooting on locations and the likelihood that they stole a lot of those locations. Like they went and shot in the streets and drove through the streets without paying for permits or, police blocking the traffic. They probably just interacted with real traffic and real pedestrians. And that, like you were saying, the improvised dialogue in some scenes that made it seem more realistic. The fact that when they're driving to this bank robbery and they're looking around and he's basically saying, watch out, there's somebody walking over here, and watch out for that rock, and
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's the kind of stuff that you say in real life, but you wouldn't necessarily write that into a script. You wouldn't, that wouldn't be part of the screenplay. Like, oh, watch out for that guy, or, oh, there's a rock,
Yeah.
And we've watched a lot of these now. Like we've watched a few of these that we've done podcasts about. I'd say this is probably one of the more stylish. Like it felt very action packed. And like you said, the daylight was interesting because you think film noir, it's all going to be these dark alleyways. And it was so not that.
Yeah.
And like that's what I liked about it, is it felt very unique in all of the stuff we've seen. I loved its bright light. It's stolen locations, the shots of cars driving and being behind the wheel, and it just had a really like just filled in sort of modern day feel to it. It almost, people would literally kill with guns to make a film like this today and make it feel authentic like this. I feel like this movie is almost a template. And I know they said that a lot of French directors love this film and they've kind of cribbed from it. And I can see why, because it did have a sort of European like vibe to me. Like that shot you were talking about of them in the long coats and they're in the street gun. That looked like a foreign film to me, like an old French film. It's
like
crazy.
Breathless. Breathless was the French. The term film noir is French because the French the French film critics were taking these things seriously, before Americans were. They were just sort of throwaway crime dramas that were made. I think, there's argument, but some people say that the reason they're so dark is because they were able to get away with not having a whole lot of set dressing. Just make it dark back there and we don't have to rent more furniture,
and probably easier to steal locations in the middle of the night and not a lot of people around, just do that. So a lot of it makes sense in a production standpoint.
Crime dramas are basically people, and there's no with other kinds of films, if you have period dramas, you have to get everybody dressed in the period clothes and the period vehicles and whatever. But crime dramas, crime, of course, provides a lot of drama, and you set it in the present day of when it was filmed, and you don't have to buy or rent anything. You could almost use the clothes that the people were wearing when they showed up for work. And sometimes they did. There's some films where they're like, they didn't have wardrobe department. I just wore clothes, and that's what I was in when I
just wore clothes. I wore clothes. I got to be in a movie.
Yeah.
I think what elevates this is, like you said, it's stealing locations, but the ingenious shots. Like I'll go back to the 3-minute shot where he gets out of the car, and then she has to get out of the car because the cop walks up to her, So the camera kind of pushes forward between the two front seats and then does this nice turn to the right. Seamless, and you get to see everything. Then it comes back and goes back. That is a hard thing to pull off if you don't have a lot of money. So they probably they jury rigged something to make it work. They got some 2x4s and whatever, and they did something, and that's it. That sets it apart from other films because they
especially
took
with
time to do that.
It'd be so easy to do now, but back then the cameras were a ton of metal, and it took 4 guys to carry, and they had to put them on they had them on these dolly things,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there was some kind of contraption in the back that had a.
I wish there was a picture of that, like how
Yeah.
what it looked like.
Again, it was a stretch. I mean, I know it was a stretch limo, and it was some
Took all the seats out.
they took the seats out, and they did some sort of
Yeah.
dolly with wood, and they just sort of pushed it
So
forward
funny.
and turned
Yeah.
the camera and got the shot, then turned it back and pushed it back.
See, now
And
you
they
can just
drove
take your
off.
phone and go, what? Done.
Yeah.
So we're
So
just,
to put the time and effort and say, hey, we don't have a lot of
Yeah.
money, but we're going to do
Yeah.
it this way. We're not going to just do a shot and cut away to a shot and cut back. We're going to
It'd
do
be
this
so
all
easy
in
to do that.
1 3-minute,
Yep.
30-second shot, and we're going to do it until it's right.
Yeah.
I'm not
right.
sure how many takes they had to do before they got it. Maybe they did it in the first one. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the thing after they do the robbery there in that shot that, he jumps back in the car, and now he's driving, right? Doesn't he's driving,
drives.
and they take off and turn the corner, and there's other cars coming, and they have to stop, and they're doing that improvised dialogue, like, is anybody following us? And she's looking behind them, and she's got this look on her face, like she is hoping somebody's following them. She's got her gun. She's got this look on her face, like
A
you better-
bloodlust.
Yeah, and the camera does a close up, closes in on her face, shows her eyes and her,
She's
her
super
smile,
excited.
and then
She
just
loves
backs
it.
away.
She's like,
Yeah.
And
And then they turn back onto the tree-lined road there that they started on. So the route that they take is like this straight, and then they turn, they go to the bank, and then they go back around this way, and they go back around. I mapped it out, actually. Remember, I think when you moved into your neighborhood, you live very close to where that took
I've
place.
actually done it a couple of times.
Yeah.
and a future shortcut might be actually just sort of
that would be
doing that again.
good.
Yeah.
We should
Sorta,
do
and then
that. You can cut back and forth.
Yeah. So
That'd
you have
be
to get some
awesome.
actors. Yeah. So anyway, that'll be
No,
fun.
no,
to do.
just you walk down the street and they cut in a shot.
Oh,
That would be fun.
Or do a side
sure
by
they would love
side, try to do it at
Oh,
the same time.
that's what I
and-
want to do, and use the same dialogue. Watch out for that rock.
Yeah.
Just,
It's so good.
Oh, I hope
Okay,
there's
look
parking
for you
space.
guys. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel for this video Mark's about to make.
I want to do it. I really do.
He's gonna do it. We're gonna make him do it.
Because it'd be cool that was 1950 or 49, I think, when they were shot it, and now we get to see
Yeah.
it today's world, what it looks
Yeah.
like today. Kind of cool.
That's right.
It's a lot the same.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
it's a
yeah, I
great- it's a
definitely
great film.
recommend Gun Crazy to people. And if even if you're like, ooh, it's an old movie, it's like, nah, man, you need to watch it. It's so much cooler than just old movie. I mean, it's really fun.
Well, at their best, older films are, sort of inform modern films in so many ways, because
Yeah.
so many people who make films love old films because of what they did on their budgets, what they did with what they had. And they had a lot less technology than we have now. It's so primitive what they had back then. It's amazing. And now, you can edit and do music and sound design and whatever. You can do that in your house now. You can do that right here on your computer. But
We're
back
doing
then,
it right now.
yeah. But back in those days, there were so many limits. And so because of those limits, the filmmakers had to use, the story had to be right on. The performances had to be right on. Everything else besides the technology had to be perfect. And in so many of those films, people, classic filmmakers that we all love now, like Martin Scorsese and all the others, Quentin Tarantino, everybody who makes films loves old films because of what they did with what they had.
That's right.
And how they told stories, because they were kind of the early days of film, they had to invent how to tell story with the camera. And by the time the 40s came along, it had been sort of perfected in a way. There's still, when you look at the 20s films and 30s films, in some ways, there's still those are the kind of films that I think put people off, because the timing, the pacing, the style of the camera work wasn't always as sharp as it got in the 40s. But something happened in the 40s, and I think people kind of figured out how to tell stories, the pacing and the it's almost like music, like jazz music was happening in the 40s, and you could cut here and cut there, and people started realizing how quickly you can cut and how fast you can cut before it becomes disorienting. So the 40s to me is like prime for a lot of the film. There's still bad films, of course, but so many films from the 40s and 50s are studied by filmmakers to this day.
Yeah, definitely.
And this one is one of them. So Gun Crazy, it's available streaming. You can watch it 90 minutes, and you will be glad you did.
You will.
I loved it. I loved it.
It was great. I loved it too.
Yeah.
I've seen it so many times, and now I want to watch it again. Now that we've been,
and it's a hard sell for me, and I hate to be one of those people, but I am, and I loved it. And I always end up loving them because I'm just being close-minded.
Well, because I liked that, I said I'm going to watch another one. So I watched this other film noir called Detour, which was from 1945, and another real low-budget film, but really incredibly well directed and great acting by Ann Savage.
Yeah.
And John, I think his name is Tom Neal.
Yeah,
anyway,
Tom Neal.
it's
I
another.
think we have another film noir podcast.
Check it out. That's really like it's like an hour long, and it's really intense.
It's
really
tight and it's weird, and Ann Savage lives up to her name in this film.
Oh, she's
so great.
Amazing. I mean,
she's
if you like Peggy
Cummins and
Cummins,
Gun Crazy, yeah.
But even more snarling, even more intense, and like she's intense. She's great.
But when we talk about Detour, we should do an episode about Detour. That's one you can really get into.
Yeah.
That's a classic story. I feel like that could have been written by Richard Matheson or something,
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that movie, if our friends listening are going to take up this challenge, watch it and then listen to the podcast that we will do about it.
And then comment that you did it so we get credit and get a gold star for doing it.
Exactly.
We get $100 for every time somebody watches a movie we read.
Yes.
God.
Oh, God.
If only that were true.
But one thing I think when you're watching Detour, you've probably seen it before, if you like these kind of movies, it's a classic. But one thing to think about in terms of Gun Crazy, she's a bad girl, right?
Very.
Just a bad girl. He is a good guy. He's the guy that gets pulled down.
He's just a sucker.
Yeah, he's the sucker, but he's got a heart of gold, and and his bad choices get the better of him.
No moral backbone.
They called them patsies back in those days, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Big term.
But in
patsy.
Detour, we're supposed to kind of believe the same thing, that this guy is sort of down on his luck, though he's down on his luck, and he comes across this horrible woman who exploits him and takes advantage of him. But one interesting thing, once you think about this and you watch the film, you can watch it two different ways. Watch it from the point of view of her, from Ann Savage's point of view. Her character gets picked up by a guy. She's hitchhiking. She gets picked up by the guy, and he tries to take advantage of her. So she gets away from him. And then later, when Tom Neal picks her up, what she sees clearly is that he has murdered this guy and stolen his car and his identity. So she, from her point of view, the two guys that she encounters on her trip to LA are these horrible, a rapist and a murderer.
Right.
So no wonder she acts like that. No wonder she's Savage.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I've always thought about her as being kind of like a sad character in that, even though she's considered to be this ruthless femme fatale. But when you watch that
that's a dual
movie,
challenge for you guys. It's like watch Detour, then watch it again.
Yeah.
From the point of view of the woman, then tell us what you think of Detour.
See if
you
I'm
have to
right.
watch it twice. We challenge you.
Yes.
And tell me if I'm right in the comments. Tell me if no, she's just bad.
Yeah, she just really call them femme fatales for a reason, people.
Yeah.
We can talk about that more if we do a detour, because that's worth.
Yeah, we
talking
should.
about.
We should do it. Definitely.
Detour's
But
classic.
But Gun Crazy, definitely worth the watch. Definitely fun, and I don't think anyone would regret watching it.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
If
really
you
fun.
like film,
Very modern.
If you like the medium of film, you're going to like Gun Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well-built film.
Yeah.
And don't forget to like us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like us.
Please
Subscribe and comment. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us if you do that. And of course, watching this and listening. So as always, thanks very much for doing it. And we'll be back
And
soon.
write to us.
Another one.
Ask us if you can ask us for stickers. We have a sticker of the cool little thing that is on the screen.
That's right.
And we also have other like hologram stickers. So
If you like stickers and you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we're gonna do another drive where the next 100 people who subscribe to our YouTube channel get stickers. So be sure and write to the email on our underneath this video, and you will get stickers.
Yes.
If you want to send us your address, if you trust us after seeing this movie.
Yeah, send us our address to that email, and then we'll definitely get it out to you.
We definitely will. We will not stalk you.
No. I won't. I'm not about
I won't. I don't want to.
We're not sure about Burke.
Burke's a wild card, but you can roll the dice.
Gosh,
right.
well, thanks very much for watching and listening, and we really appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Cinemondo signing off.